everyone, Bernard here. I hope you're all staying safe and well, and welcome to the Citizen channel. And we have a new one today. We're going to have a look back at things that have a city related thing on the old screen. It could be a movie, it could be a documentary. So I'm just going to look back at certain things where there was the ground may have been used, the Etihad, or even obviously Old Main Road was featured in a lot of films and TV series. So we're going to call this City at the Movies. So today we're going to have a pretty basic one. We're going to look back at a documentary that was city specific. It wasn't just used as a backdrop. Obviously we're going to be talking about this one here, this Blue Moon Rising that was released in September 2010. A very interesting end of season DVD this at the time, and just looking back at it now, this is the first time I've watched it for over 10 years. It was quite interesting to watch, so join me as we have a look at that, and I'll look back at that and look at what was said about it, what other people thought about it at the time, and what I think about it now, looking back at it. Because I say, it was I was there at that time. I was there going, obviously, during that season. So let's have a look at that today. Please, if you're new to the channel, push that subscribe button, push the bell notifications. You'll also see stuff on my film and TV channel as well if you want to have a break from football. There's all links on screen for Facebook and Twitter, and I have a little website as well. If you get a chance to have a look at that, I'll be very appreciative. And please, if you follow or friend me, I do check every 2 or 3 days and follow and friend everyone back on there. And all your comments, if you remember this, I'm not too sure of a couple of guys look familiar from over the years, but it's hard to tell. A lot of us City fans had that sort of downtrodden look at that stage, didn't we? So I'm not sure. I'm sure I bumped into some couple of these guys over time, but yeah, if you leave your comments, any memories you got this season, or these guys that were featured in this film, that'd be absolutely fantastic. And please, if you can't leave us a comment today, just give us a thumbs up. That'd be great. Yeah, Blue Moon Rising. Yeah, as I said, it was 17th of September 2010. It was actually released. Had a sort of very tiny release at the cinema here up in the northwest before obviously it eventually was on DVD. Internet Movie Database described it as a British sport documentary. The film title is a play on words, apparently, referring to Manchester City's fan anthem. There you go. Blue Moon, and chronicles the fortunes of Manchester City Football Club through the 2009-2010 football season, with insight from Manchester City supporters, mainly these guys on here. Shot and produced by Endemol in conjunction with the club, and features exclusive interviews with staff, players, board members and fans throughout the season. The film follows Manchester City in the wake of the club's takeover by Sheikh Mansour through the 2009-10 season, capturing their emotions in victory and defeats. Yes, an interesting season, wasn't it? You look back at it. Whilst the documentary will also give an access all areas view into Manchester City Football Club, including footage from the dressing room. There wasn't too much of that, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm thinking about All or Nothing now, aren't I? And stuff like that, how it's a bit progressed onto that. But there wasn't a lot of footage from the dressing room. Boardroom and players' homes such as Carlos Tevez, a little bit, nothing much. Exclusive in-depth interviews from Chairman Khaldoon Al Mubarak, of course. That was good to watch him now. I literally watched him a couple of weeks ago, and he was doing his end of season thing, so it was nice to look back at what his thoughts were at that time. And of course, manager Roberto Mancini at the time, yeah, and he was trying to learn some English on this. It's quite he was okay with his English. Obviously had his own little teacher. That was quite an interesting little watch. It was directed by a gentleman called Stuart Sugg. So did it get any good ratings at the time? Well, there wasn't that much rating about it, to be honest. There's a few newspapers give it a nice critique. I mean, the Times said it was entertaining, funny, and at times poignant, which is what you'd expect. Rotten Tomatoes, there's only a couple of critics. Interesting, though, these couple of critics. Charlotte O'Sullivan at the London Evening Standard, she wrote, you don't need to be interested in football to find Stuart Sugg's slick portrait of super-rich Manchester City FC involving super-rich Manchester City. Had FFP been put in then? I don't think it had it? It was on the verge of being put in, I think, anyway. Yes, but Mr. Andrew Pulver at The Guardian was probably a Liverpool or United fan, I'm not too sure. He simply said, we're supposed to emphasise with these charmless dipsticks. So yes, Mr. Andrew Pulver, I have no idea who you are or what you are, if you're still alive or if you're still going, but the jealousy just seeps through, doesn't it? I bet he's livid now, isn't he, if he's still knocking around 11 years later. Yeah, the audience on Internet Movie Database, that's Joe Public. Obviously, there's about 200 and odd reviews left and scores. Well, put it this way, there's only 200 odd scores left. There's literally 2 people had bothered to write a review, which weren't overly complimentary. One was okay, and one was a bit of a downer, saying, but obviously he kept using the word soccer, so he obviously has no idea what football's about anyway. But yeah, the audience was 62%. That wasn't too bad. It wasn't too bad on Rotten Tomatoes, the audience rating. Metacritic, Chris Wheeler of the Daily Fail, he wrote, quite kind actually. You don't have to support City to appreciate Blue Moon Rising, because any supporter can relate to the roller coaster of emotions in football, but it would help. As Helios, that's the van they used to drive around in, drives off into the night after the Spurs defeat, one of the group sums up what it's all about. Being a City fan, you've got to have hope, he says. Yeah, I do remember that night. That was a very, very sad night, although we did celebrate a year later, if I remember rightly, not only getting our first trophy, but obviously that we did the dirty on Tottenham that time. So what goes around comes around, as they say, and obviously that was, it's nice to look back at these things. Internet Movie Database, yeah. Joe Public, you, me, everyone else. Yeah, it's got a 6.5 out of 10 rating based on 248 reviews, so not a bad rating at all. And 196 of that 248 scored it 6 or more, so a good healthy 79% of people who bothered to leave a score for this quite appreciated the documentary. So my little thoughts on it, yeah, I mean, I thought 6.5 was perhaps a little bit low, but I can understand that coming from a non-City point of view. I'm biased, obviously, I'm a City fan. But I would say for a documentary at the time, I thought it was quite unique. I mean, we have sort of been sort of groundbreaking. I mean, obviously, I'll be touching upon that very famous documentary in a feature to come, obviously the one entitled simply City, wasn't it, with Malcolm Allison and John Bond, etc. So we'll be having a look at that. But if you look at stuff like that, we've been quite groundbreaking, I think, of Manchester City in the past. You think of the nationwide weekly thing they used to do on Manchester City, stuff like that. So yeah, this was quite good at the time. I liked it. And obviously, it has been replicated recently with things like All or Nothing, especially with the action sequences and the slow motion and the effective cinematography is excellent. You know, with the rain lashing down and things slowed down and speeded up and flashbacks and stuff like this. It's brilliant. So yeah, it did really sort of push the buttons, the correct buttons, I think, at the time for a football documentary, for a sports documentary. But there you go. That was my thoughts on looking at it. There were flashbacks, of course, in this film to 76, 81 and 99. I found a little bit twee, to be honest with you, a little bit, obviously, using amateur actors, using fans as the actors, etc, etc. And if you do watch the making of extras and stuff like that, they're on the DVD, you get to see a little bit more of the background to that, which is quite interesting as well as watching the film. But obviously, yeah, obviously it's obvious, isn't it? If you think of 2010, I mean, our most outstanding times before that was obviously 76, the last time we won a trophy, 81 when we lost to Tottenham, unluckily in my opinion, and 99, of course, when we jubilation of actually getting through and beating Gillingham. So those flashbacks were okay, but they're okay. Don't get me wrong, they're okay. Just a little bit corny, I think I'd call it. Yeah, I think looking back, it was probably a perfect season to capture City, wasn't it? Because they'd done it the season after. Obviously, it was the season we won the FA Cup and we actually finished 4th and we beat Tottenham into 4th to get into that Champions League. But I think I don't know if it's just being a City fan, but the fact of this disappointment sort of appealed to me of that season, which it was basically. It was disappointing. We had a chance of getting in the top 4, which would have been an accomplishment. We had a chance to get into the League Cup final, obviously with United. Obviously the United games featured. It was a season where Adebayor, of course, got the goal against Arsenal at the Etihad. So I mean, all those things. It was a great season in a way, but it was just a season of nearlies, and I like that. I like that rather than the season after. I said when we actually achieved something, which I like anyway. But I think just from a documentary point of view, I think it's more poignant looking at the season where we were so close and we didn't know, did we? Didn't know what was to come at that stage. You talk to people and say, oh, well, if you told me in 1997 this would have happened, blah, blah, blah. But it was the same with 2010. We all hoped. I mean, we had hope, obviously, with the takeover that this was going to be gonna work. But no one knew, did they? We didn't know anything. It could have been anything could have happened. We all had that positivity, but and it's just so nice to look back on that 2009-10 season, just to think how it did improve in it and go on from there. And of course, you've got clips of Caldoon, which is fantastic, and you've got Ian Cheeseman there. Ian Cheeseman's featured 2 or 3 times, so it's nice to see Ian Cheeseman. And I could even put up and have a smile watching the arrogant United fans in the United Cafe talking about poor little City and how rubbish we are. I mean, I'd love to see their little smug faces now, but yeah, I even enjoyed the arrogance of that. So I thought that was excellent. I mean, I think what it did, the documentary, was, yeah, I mean, all right, the elements with these lads, I mean, I wasn't overly as interested in that actually as some of the other things in the documentary, but it did sort of get over the dedication and the 30-odd previous season. I mean, most of these guys wouldn't have been there the 30-odd years before, but obviously they're too young. But it did get over that disappointment. And of course, we changed achievement levels, haven't we? And that's what had happened if you look back at it. And I'd say we didn't know at the time, because obviously what we'd done is we'd gone from being relegated on the last day of the season to being disappointed with that, but we've gone to being disappointed with missing out on 4th spot in the Champions League on the last day of the season. We'd gone from missing out on a Wembley appearance by 1 game by losing that second leg in the League Cup to United, to actually from getting knocked out in the 3rd, 4th, 5th rounds. So it'd all been an improvement. But it was still a gauge of disappointment. This I think was classed as an end of season. I don't think there was an end of season DVD done this season. I don't think there was. I've looked back, I can't see any. Something that I used to buy on and off over the years, but so it did make up as an end of season DVD, and in that respect, it did a very good job, and all credit to everyone involved in it. But as I said, it was the actual action sequences and the games and the support reactions in the crowd that appealed to me more, perhaps, than following these guys. I don't think there's much. There was a couple of them were quite fleshed out, and it's nice to see the girlfriends. But I mean, obviously the girlfriends were like in the background, weren't they? And I think in this day and age, you tend to see more of the girls up front supporting the team, don't you? So that's certainly changed. You didn't get that feeling back in, say, it was only 11 years ago. You didn't get that feeling in this DVD that it was mainly the guys, and the girls were just in the background, weren't they? Even when they had the flashbacks and stuff like that. And I think the best bit, the best bit of the whole thing as far as supporting was when they took the car in to have it serviced or MOT'd, and the mechanic started pulling it apart. I don't even know if he was a City fan, the mechanic, to be honest with you. But he was the best thing in as far as the real life guys in this were concerned. I thought that was the funniest part of the whole documentary. And it was a good ending, obviously, it literally ended as we were singing 34 years and we're still here. But so that was very poignant again as an end of the documentary, the end of nearly 2 hours. Thankfully, we didn't have to sing 35 years and we're still here, but we would have done, wouldn't we? Yeah, of course we would have. We would have been singing 45 years, 46 years, even now. Let's be honest about it. So yeah, that was quite a good ending. Yeah, so also watch the extras. The extras are very good, the making of, and a couple of the sequences, and it's probably about half an hour in total. But if you do buy the DVD, which obviously is cheap as chips these days, get hold of a copy of that, no problem, and have another watch. Or if you've got it in collecting dust somewhere, dig it up and have another watch. As I said, it's been over 10 years since I watched this, and I quite enjoyed going back and rewatching it, as I will enjoy going back and rewatching other things about City that I'm going to watch over the next few weeks and months, and bring you a little taster of and a reminder of on here, if that's all right with you. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that little look. What I would rate it? Yeah, my rating for it. Yeah, I would probably. Yeah, I would give it a 7 out of 10. I'm not overly over the top. I'm not being too biased with that. I think it was just a very well. But as I said, unless you absolutely hate City, it's something for any football fan to watch. If you can't stand City, you won't watch it. Like I won't watch anything. There's something on there at the moment about Alex Ferguson. I'm not going to watch it in a million years. I have no interest. But so unless you absolutely hate City to bits, but if you just